As an executive coach with decades of experience guiding C-suite leaders, I've observed that true executive presence is often communicated in the spaces between words. And today, I'm diving deep into the art of mastering both verbal and nonverbal communication. Let's dive in. Welcome to part 3 of a 4-part series on executive presence. Today, I'm going to unpack executive communication with a specific focus on mastering the verbal and nonverbal messages we intentionally or unintentionally send others. In part 1, I talked about the foundation, which is authenticity and self-awareness. In part 2, I unpacked how to stay composed under pressure. If you missed any of those two, you can watch them on my YouTube channel. Let's start with a truth that many overlook. Your body speaks volumes before you even utter a single word. From the moment you enter a room, you're transmitting signals about your confidence, your authority, and your trustworthiness. Research suggests that up to 93% of communication is nonverbal. As a result, I want to offer a couple of important nonverbal cues that I believe every leader should master. First, posture. Stand tall, shoulders back. This projects confidence and openness. Next, eye contact. Maintain steady, engaged eye contact. It conveys interest and honesty. I coach others to look people in the eye when they shake their hands. I've seen way too many young leaders look away when they shake someone's hand, which sends a message that they're not confident. When you're on video, many of us are on video now, stop reading email. It's extremely obvious and sends the message that something else is more important. Next is facial expressions, right? Become aware of your expressions. A slight smirk or a pensive look can undermine your words. Hand gestures, right? I use hands a lot. I'm Italian, right? Use purposeful, open gestures to emphasize points and appear more approachable. A few years back, I was asked to give a motivational talk during a leadership meeting. And before I even uttered a word, I noticed that half the people had their arms crossed. And since this was a group of leaders, I couldn't resist the temptation to call them out, as it sends the wrong message. In fact, a couple people came up to me afterward and thanked me. They said that they didn't even realize that they were doing that. See, that's the thing about nonverbal cues. We often don't realize we're doing them. Next is personal space. You don't need to get too close to somebody. Respect other space while confidently occupying your own. See, your nonverbal cues are only half the equation. The other half are the words that actually come out of your mouth when you do speak. Here are a couple suggestions to ensure your verbal communication enhances your executive presence. First, clarity is better than being clever. See, I had a mentor give me this advice, and it was pure gold. He said, stop being clever and focus on being clear. Bam! That was some good advice. He said, speak with precision and avoid jargon unless absolutely necessary. Next is pace and tone. Vary your speaking tone and pace. Use strategic pauses for emphasis. See, earlier in my career, I was on a fast track, and I was blessed to have a wonderful HR director take me under her wing. She used to sit in on my meetings and would observe my leadership. And one day we were talking afterwards, and she pulled me aside and she said, you have this natural ability to captivate an audience, and that people just want to follow you. And you can imagine that moment, my ego soared, right, when I heard that. Then she dropped the bomb, and she said, but I'm not quite sure they're following you for the right reasons. And when I asked her for clarification, she went on to say my voice was deep and oftentimes loud. And if I wasn't careful, it could intimidate others. She then sent me to a speech pathologist. Yeah, that's right? It was extremely humbling. And she told me the same thing I'm telling you. Pace and tone. She taught me to use the strength of my voice when needed. And she also taught me how to slow down and speak slower to really pull others in. I gotta tell you, I was blessed to have that advice so early in my career. Trust me when I say that pace and tone are critical to your executive presence. Next is active listening. I can always tell the most senior person in the room because they're the least distracted. They are actively engaged with the person right in front of them, which allows them to listen and respond to what is actually being said. Let me simplify active listening for you. It starts with showing a genuine interest in others' input. See, this builds rapport and also it's respect. Next is about trying to understand what others are trying to say, right? Or even what they meant to say. See, so many times we hear what we want to hear and are more focused on responding to what was said instead of truly understanding what the other person is trying to say, even if they aren't articulating it correctly. And lastly, it's about acknowledging what you heard to ensure you got it correctly. Now, many of you know I'm a power of three guy, so let me net this out for you. Listen, understand, and acknowledge. Bam! That's active listening, and trust me when I say it will elevate your executive presence big time. Next is assertiveness. Avoid hedging phrases like I think or maybe. Instead, use phrases like I believe. See, this is something, in fact, I'm still working on. For some weird reason, when I write emails, and I don't know why, but I find myself saying in written form the words I think. This is a bad habit, and I discovered this by raising my awareness of the nonverbal cues that I send others. So before sending an email, I now try to scan it and I look for the words think. And if I find it, I replace it with the words believe, right? See, I'm amazed at how often I still do that, but it pays to be intentional with your language. What's my takeaway here? I believe is more powerful than I think. And that's what I mean by being assertive. Next, storytelling. Stories make your points memorable. Look what I did here today. I told you a story about an HR director and me going to a speech pathologist. Didn't that drive the point home more about pace and tone? I told you a story about writing emails and replacing the word think with the word believe. Isn't that more memorable? That's the power of storytelling. Okay, let's bring this home. The real magic happens when your verbal and nonverbal cues are in alignment. This alignment is what we call congruence, and it's the hallmark of authentic executive presence. Let me give you an example. If you're expressing enthusiasm about a new project, your words should be accompanied by an energetic tone, right? You should be animated gestures, right? And a bright expression. Incongruence, such as positive words delivered with your arms crossed or a frown on your face, creates distrust and undermines whatever message you're trying to send. Here are a couple practical steps you can take to start driving improvement. 1, video yourself. Record presentations and analyze your verbal and nonverbal cues. Next, seek feedback. The easiest one you could do. Ask someone you trust for honest input on your communication style. You'd be amazed at what they'll say. Next is pregame, right? I love pregaming. Workshop important situations with someone you trust to practice aligning your verbal and nonverbal cues. And lastly, study the masters, right? Become a student of the game. Observe leaders you admire. What can you learn from their communication style? What can you adopt into your communication style? See, here's the bottom line. Your words, your tone, and your body language matter. They either inspire trust or raise questions. They motivate action or they undermine efforts, right? They can powerfully navigate complex situations with ease and grace, or they can make those situations infinitely harder. Executive presence isn't about perfection. It's about authenticity and intentionality. By honing your verbal and nonverbal communication, right, you're not just improving your executive presence. You're amplifying your ability to lead, influence, and drive meaningful change. If you found these tips valuable, I want you to imagine what a personalized coaching session could do for you or someone on your team. If you're serious about elevating your executive presence and would like an accelerated roadmap to achieve that in 90 days, follow the link in the description and schedule an exploratory call. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe because next week I'm unpacking part 4 of this 4-part series on executive presence, and that is the charisma factor. Okay, if you like what I shared today, do me a favor, drop a comment below related to your business, give it a like, and of course subscribe because each week I'm sharing content to help you and your team embrace change, focus your efforts, and accelerate results. Remember this, you're just one idea away. We'll talk to you soon.